Tell me when you see smoke in the air. Smoke in the air, smoke in the air. Hang on. Yeah, man, splash one, splash one. Here comes another one. Booster flares, no, no, no. Splitting the throttles. Coming around. To be told, to be told. You got him, man, you got him. Taking a shot.
Hey everyone, thank each and every one of you for being here today. It's great to connect with all of you. If you're new here, our 3 pillars are to educate, awake, and activate others to help protect our children and save our nation. Our guest today is a dad on this very same mission. Lieutenant Commander Ali Ghaffari is a retired Navy fighter pilot who went from fighting for our country in the skyways to school hallways. Ali shares with us today how America has been intentionally diverted from her original mission and how this caused him and his wife to start the classical Catholic school called Divine Mercy Academy in Maryland. He tells us why a classical liberal education was chosen and describes the difference between that and the progressive education our nation's children receive in public school today. Most importantly, though, he tells us how we can become educated and activated to lead our children to the truth that begins with God. I believe you'll be inspired by his story today, as I was. Speaking of education, I wanted to share with you one of my new favorite companies called Healthy Home Technologies. We can discover the cleanest and healthiest home and office technologies worldwide and enjoy peace of mind knowing we're drinking the purest water, breathing the freshest air, and living in a chemical-free environment for us and our family. So whether we use the whole house or under the sink water filtration system, the air purifier, or the kitchen cookware, we can keep our family healthy. Healthy Home Technologies does the research and finds the healthiest home technologies around the world, so we don't have to. Just go to healthyhometechs.com and use code MISSION for exclusive savings and free shipping. That's healthyhometechs.com, TECHS, code MISSION. Or if you have a million questions like I do, call 918-215-2696. That's 918-215-2696, or just use the link in the notes below the show. And please subscribe to us on Rumble, where we can upload all of our content. Just download the Rumble app, type in Moms on a Mission at the top, and then click the follow icon, and you'll never miss a show. And you can also follow us on Instagram at Moms on a Mission 918 or at X Moms on Mission OK. Lastly, please share today's show with anyone who's on this mission with us. Thank you. Welcome, Lieutenant Commander Ali Ghaffari. Thank you so much for your time today and joining the Moms on a Mission podcast.
Glad to be here, Miriam.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for your service. I'm so grateful. I know that that is a sacrifice, and I'm just so thankful and grateful for the time you served our country.
It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot and grew a lot. And I feel sometimes I feel bad when people say thank you for just doing your job. And so, but glad to have done it.
Well, thank you. So for those who may not know you, can you just give us a little bit of your background and tell us a little bit about who you are?
Yes. So grew up in Vermont, had kind of a rough upbringing. Didn't really have Christ in my life. Went to some of the top schools in the nation in high school and in college. Came to faith in the Lord shortly after graduating college. Joined the Navy. Had a 20-year career as a Navy fighter pilot. Got married. Married an amazing woman who made me a better man, and I now have 4 daughters, amazing daughters. And over the course of the last couple of years of my career, felt very passionate that the education my kids were getting was not enough for them, and not enough specifically to get them to heaven, to prepare them for a life of holiness. And that drove me just to start a school for them. And that became broadened from just this little vision of this little spot with my kids to something much broader, where see myself and the school that we're starting as contributing to this renaissance in education and a renaissance in our country.
Yes, and I'm so grateful you said yes to that calling. I wanted to go back though, because in my research about you, I found this to be so amazing how that you were an atheist. And I was just going to see if you could share with us about your conversion and how you came out of that.
Sure. So, God was kind of in and out of my life. My mom had gone to rehab, and then as part of the 12-step program, God became mentioned in my life, but we never really went to church. And so when I went away to prep school and then college, most of my professors were atheists, and I wanted to become a doctor at the time, and so I had taken on this atheistic worldview. And it wasn't until I came home, it was the summer between my sophomore and junior years of college. I was home and came into to contact with a man I'd already knew. He was our neighbor. He was my first boss, but I didn't have a lot of respect for him. He was a man who barely graduated high school. He was self-educated, but a self-made businessman. And what I didn't know is he'd been studying Aristotle and St. Thomas Aquinas for the last 2 years. And we got into a little bit of a debate on my porch, on the front porch. And he asked me what I was doing. And I told him this organic chemistry research. And he asked me about it. And I got really 2 or 3 questions in. And I realized I didn't know what I was talking about. And I had learned how to play the game where I could memorize, regurgitate, just tell me what's on the test and just get past this. But I never really understood what I was learning. And he'd proven this man who hadn't even gone to college, and I had gone to some of the top schools. And then the next question was, do you believe in God? And for me, the immediate answer was no. I don't see enough proof that God exists. I need to see proof in order to believe that something exists. And he said, there's proof everywhere, and you just have to have the eyes to see it. And so that began a conversation that went on for the next probably 3 years or so, and intensified after I'd graduated from college and joined the Navy. And I didn't necessarily want to become a Christian. I just wanted to live the life that, I just wanted to live the life that the world told me to live, right? But I did find that to be fruitless, and I found it to be empty, and I found loneliness at the end of that. And so by the time the 3 years were up, I was ready for God at that point in time. And so that launched me into my faith, and my life has not been the same. And my life is filled with joy. It doesn't mean it's never hard or there's never suffering. But I am so happy, and I found the joy, and I love being a Christian. I love it so much.
I'm so glad to hear that. What a great testimony. So I was curious, Ali, so you were not happy with the education system. Were you seeing just insufficient standards as it relates to reading and math and things like that? Or were you seeing more indoctrination from a cultural level, like Marxist perspectives being injected into the school?
Actually, it was, I don't know if it was worse than that, but we put our kids in what we thought was the best Catholic school in the area, St. Mary's. We put the kids in the school. We loved the teachers. The kids seemed to be learning much. I didn't really know much at that time about the socialist indoctrination. I was just really one of those things, you put your kids in the school and you just expect it to go fine. Probably like most every other parent, right? And so, but what was important to me was that their faith was growing. And what I saw very quickly was that faith was not primary in this school. And they had a church right next door with 7 priests, and they didn't have mass but every 6 weeks or so. And so that's really weird. We'd moved around the country, military family. We've seen a lot of schools. We know that par for the course is mass once a week. You pray rosary once a week. But we came here, and there was a decided lack of attention to faith. And that was really hard to see and to bear with it. And a lot of the other Catholic faculty members at the Naval Academy had previously had their kids in the school, and they pulled the children out, and they said, and they put them, in fact, in public schools, because they said, we would rather the kids be in a secular environment than in an environment like that. And I think the reason was, and I think my concern was they would become inoculated against the faith. They would think that they had received an education in Christianity, and then feel free to dismiss it when it didn't appeal to them. It didn't stand up to the pressures of life. And they would say, I've looked at that. I've looked down that path. The answer is not there. It's someplace else. And that's not what I wanted. I wanted the kids to come face to face with a robust version of our faith, where they just understood. They understood, what it meant to be holy, what it meant to be Christian, how countercultural it is to actually be Christian, how hard it is to follow Christ up Golgotha and to carry the cross. Like, that's not for the weak of heart or the faint of heart. It's really hard. But that's not the version of Christianity that's being kind of propounded in our schools, unfortunately. And then secondly, I wanted them to understand how to think, to reason. And that was part of my conversion, was reading the Aristotles and the Platos and Socrates and learning that truth exists, and that we have a duty to find out what the truth is, and to discern truth from falsity, and that we ought to live lives of virtue. And I didn't find those elements emphasized in the curriculum as well. And so those things had me looking elsewhere. And that's when I stumbled upon classical education. And that was the answer to my prayers.
So I wanted to ask you, how on earth did you decide to start a school? So you started Divine Mercy Academy. And I'm just thinking, I'm putting myself in your shoes as a mom, or my husband as a dad. And you're thinking, oh, we cannot find a school. I just can't even imagine a million years we would say, oh, well, let's just start one. How did that all go down?
I never imagined myself starting a school. It was never a dream of mine to found anything. I would probably be the last person you would think. I was working full-time at the Naval Academy. My wife was working full-time. We had no time between the two of us. We had 3 kids who were busy. But it was after 3 years of just being frustrated, and just the time is ticking on your kids. Like, the kids make a faith decision for themselves when they're about 12 years old. That's about 7th or 8th grade. They're making that decision at that point in time. And so I knew that there was a short window, and I couldn't screw this up. And at the same time, there were no other classical schools nearby that I could put the kids in. There was a 2-day-a-week tutorial, but they had a waiting list out the door. And the next closest was about 45 minutes to an hour away. And so I just, we went to tour anyway, the 2-day-a-week tutorial, and I was so amazed by what I saw. The teachers were asking the question, why? Over and over again. It was next layer, next layer, next layer. And the kids were going deep, and they were going wide, and they were connecting all of these subjects, one to the other to the next. I said, this is absolutely amazing. And at the end of my tour, I asked the head of the school, I said, do you have any plans to go 5 days a week? And she said, no. She said, but we think the time is right. And she looked me in the eye and she said, maybe you're the person to do that. And that was the first time that the idea came into my mind. At first I said, oh my gosh, that would be so hard to do. And how could I do that? Who am I to start a school? I have no experience in that. And so it was something that I discerned over several months, and then I went to a conference that summer at ICLE, the Institute for Catholic Liberal Education. And again, I was just blown away by what I saw. And I sat down at lunch after the first day, and another woman sat down next to me, and she was a teacher at that school that I toured. And she said, I heard you're thinking about starting a school. I said, yes. And she said, do you want help? And that was the moment that I said, all right, this is going to be it, and then God provided one family after another to come in to bring their talents to contribute. And this has been the greatest exercise in faith that I've ever had in my life, where it just says, God, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what the next step is, and I don't have the resources I need to do this. And then God has just provided very calmly and patiently with me, one step after another. He's just come through every time that we've needed something. God has come through for. So it's just been amazing. And I'm no longer astounded when God performs a little miracle for us when we need, if it's a place for our school to be, if it's more families, if it's a teacher, if it's money from a donor. God just provides consistently for us. It's been amazing.
I love that you said that you're no longer surprised, because we shouldn't be surprised. I mean, if you really truly believe the word of God, that he gave the Israelites manna from heaven. I mean, what on earth? If you really believe that the God is the same yesterday, today, and forever, that he could have manna fall out of the sky for us if we're hungry. I mean, if you really believe the word of God. So I really never heard anybody say that. And I think that that's really neat that you are no longer surprised. And what a neat educational experience for your kids, for them to see firsthand the hand of Almighty living God providing. I mean, this is education right here. This is real life education.
Mm-hmm. It's been amazing too. In the first year that we started this school, my kids, they came home, and I have no artistic ability. I have no musical ability. Don't ask me to act in a play or to play in. I can't do any of those things. But in the first year, my kids, they were second grade, fourth grade, and fifth grade, and they came home and they were singing beautifully. They were composing music. They were singing in Latin. They were chanting. They were creating artistry that I'd never seen before. It was absolutely amazing. It was jaw dropping, absolutely night and day from the things that they had been doing in public school, because we pulled them out of the Catholic school. We put them in public school for a year. It blew those two schools away, the things that they were doing. So this is absolutely incredible. And then the way that they connected one class to another. So they connected art class and science and the things that they were learning. I'm a biology major in college. And the kids, one unit, were studying the mitochondria. And so my daughter, she's had a Play-Doh, a plant cell, and she was pointing out all the organelles, and she was pointing, this is the mighty mitochondria, and this is the nucleolus. And she's going through all of the little things. And I said, that's freshman level biology that you're going into right now. And she knew it all because she had to create it with her hands, right? And she had to create a single organelle, and they had the songs that they were singing to each one and rhymes for each thing. And so they really owned the material, and they understood the connection of these things at a level far beyond what we would come to normally expect to be taught at a high school or a public school or a parochial school. And that's the classical methodology. And I completely fell in love with it in that first year. And it's to the point where I would never, ever go back in any way, shape, or form. And I would never urge anyone to do anything other than classical education, but with a caveat that it needs to be connected with a Christian faith. Those two are connected. As God is the creator of the universe, he's the creator of all these things. He ties it all in together. Otherwise, if it's just a classical school, then you're creating clever devils. So you don't want that. You want Christians who understand the best of Western civilization in this classical methodology.
So for those who may not know really clearly the difference between a classical education and more of, just the generic one that we're used to now, what would you say is, just simply so people can understand, is the main difference between what we have now and what a classical education is?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so it's kind of funny that we need to use the word classical now, because it was just education for 2000 plus years. And the thing that we call just education now is actually termed progressive education. And that's fairly new over the last 100 or so years, maybe 120 years. But to answer your question, classical education has a different end in mind than the progressive education. So for classical education, it's got its roots with the Greeks, and they wanted to know, what is it to live a flourishing human life? How do we become good human beings? Like, what does that look like? What does a good life look like? And for them, it was to create somebody who had virtue, who possessed virtue. And for them, specifically with the Greeks, they wanted to create people of virtue to become leaders within the civilization. So they would keep the civilization on the straight and narrow and always flourishing as an organization. And so they were always thinking about, how do we become the best human beings? When you think about a progressive education, however, progressive education is a different end. And the end that was stated by John Dewey, who was one of the authors of our progressive education, was to essentially create slaves for our state, for a communist or socialist government. He wanted to create a communist or socialist style revolution within the country through the educational system. And he thought one of the things was to separate children from their families, because he thought, and he was right about this, that families had a major influence on the children. And he said, no, we want the state to educate the children. And so we need to separate them as young as humanly possible, so that there is blank a slate that we can kind of imprint our ideology on the children. Another was to erase the understanding of history and to get rid of this rootedness within the civilization. That's what education is the passing on of culture from one generation to the next. And so we want to pull up the roots of this culture, because the culture of America is one of Christianity. It's one of patriotism. It's one of all of democracy, all of these beautiful things that have made our country great. That's part of our culture, the fabric of our country. But if you want to replace that, you need to cut the roots out from the generations so they don't understand and they don't have a relatedness to that culture. And so that was the next thing he wanted to do. And then he wanted to get rid of this sense of right and wrong and the sense of virtue and how I ought to behave, and then instead blame everything on the society and on the group. Oh, it's not your fault that you hit your classmate. No, that's the society did that. And with the end of all of these things is to turn children not into critical thinkers, not into independent leaders of people of virtue, but to be slaves, to be ideologues, to be people who would agitate against the government to overthrow it and then replace it with a socialist or communist government.
Yeah, which is really interesting when you research John Dewey, how John Rockefeller funded him doing all this, and how he went over to China and Prussia and adopted these communist educational tactics and systems, and then started gradually just changing how our children were taught. And what I think is so interesting is that, a lot of progressive things, you act like the old is archaic and that it's not good and that new is better. And there has been some progress that has been good, obviously women voting and things like that. But see, with this Marxist ideology, it's black and white, it's all or nothing. And they're just trying to cut off all the roots. And when you think about it, I mean, this is the type of education that our founding fathers had. Clearly, this produces robust knowledge and incredibly successful human beings. And it's not like it didn't work and we needed something new. What we needed was something new to divert people from Jesus Christ and to make them serve the state instead of God.
You're 100% right about that. And so it's been a slow progression of pulling God out. It used to be where, at the time of our founding fathers, most of them were homeschooled. They were homeschooled, or they were schooled by a local church or a local tutor who would go from place to place. Or you see Laura Ingalls Wilder in the one room schoolhouse. Those types of things where Christ was present in the education. He was central, right? And we understand God is creator and father. And so he created everything that we see. And so everything must go back to him. Like there's no question about it. Like he designed the universe, right? And so we have an intelligent designer. It's all beautiful just to explore his creation. But when they want to get rid of God and replace him with the state, and that's what socialism is, it's replacing God with the state becomes your God. They need to cut the roots out from that, and they need to cut that out, and they need to prevent that from happening, because the church is a counterbalance to the state as well, right? And it's something that strengthens and gathers people, it strengthens communities and families. But if you want to take the roots out and you want to weaken those things, you have to cut out God, and you do it incrementally, step by step, which is what they've done over the last 120 years or so.
Yeah, which I'm so grateful that you said yes, because I think sometimes we can hear things from the Lord and say, oh, I'm not equipped or whatever. But if we can just go back to the fact that it's not about us, and you look at Moses in the Bible, I mean, he was a stutterer and God brought Aaron along to help. I mean, there are so many places in the Bible where God uses all these people, regular people who feel probably unequipped, but God gets the glory that way. And I just think that you are a perfect testimony of that. I was wondering if you could share how folks can learn more about this whole type of education. Maybe someone's listening today and they feel inspired. Maybe they're like, there is not a classical Christian education opportunity in my town. I wonder how I could start one. Or if they wanted to support Divine Mercy Academy, how they would do that.
Great. There are several websites you should go to. So divinemercy.md is our website. We'd love to connect with you if you like what we're doing. There are a couple other organizations that are umbrella organizations that encompass a number of schools across the country. One is the ACCS, the Association of Classical Christian Schools. That's a fantastic organization, and they can get you all the information you need as far as local schools, how to start one, the statistics that show a classical education, how much better it is just even academically as far as test scores and whatnot. And on the Catholic side of the house, that's the ICLE, Institute for Catholic Liberal Education. CLT, I think you've had Jeremy Tate on your show before, Classic Learning Test, more information there. But yeah, there are a number of fantastic organizations, but the Augustine Institute is another one that comes to mind. And then there are a number of colleges that offer it as well, that offer a classical education. So it's not too late. Miriam talked about your high school age son. Get him into a classical college, and he can still get the benefit of this type of education.
Where would you send your daughters to a classical college? What would be your top two?
So for me, Thomas Aquinas College is one I feel very, very strongly about, and Hillsdale College is another one that is phenomenal. There are others, but those two are the ones that come top of mind.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for saying yes. And thank you again for your service. I just think that God has equipped you, unbeknownst to you, and prepared you for such a time as this. And like I said, our 3 pillars of the Moms on a Mission podcast are educate, awake, and activate. And you and your wife are just the epitome of learning the truth and then becoming active to not just help your daughters, but really America and America's children. And I just want to say a big thank you. I think your life of service is just incredibly phenomenal and very inspiring. Thank you. God is good. He's been taking care of us, and he'll take care of you. That's so great. And thank you all so much for listening. And as always, you can email us at moms@momsonamission.net. And then we would love for you to follow us on Rumble. We're on many streaming platforms, but that is one of the most uncensored. So if you just download the Rumble app, type in Moms on a Mission at the top, and then click the follow icon, you'll never miss a show. Thank you for listening, and have a great day. In light of recent bank volatility and skyrocketing inflation, diversification is a must. That's why I use my good friend Andrew Sorcini at Beverly Hills Precious Metals. Beverly Hills Precious Metals makes it so easy to diversify. I personally ordered some silver and it arrived on my doorstep just a few days later. They make it so easy. And if you're not ready to do that and you just want to ask a few questions, they're there for you too. I personally got some silver and also am rolling over some of my IRA. You can actually roll over your IRA and have it be backed by silver and gold. So if you don't have any extra money to invest in silver and gold, rolling over a 401k or an IRA, or even part of it, if you just want to try it at first, just for a little bit, you can do that as well. So go to bh-pm.com today and ask all your questions. You can connect with somebody. And like I said, you can just get some information at first if you want and pray about it, and then get back with them to roll over part of your IRA or all of it, or order some gold and silver. That's bh-pm.com. and tell them that Moms on a Mission sent you. Hey, everybody. Did you know that recent research from the CDC says that millions of Americans develop parasitic infections and symptoms often go unnoticed or are misdiagnosed? Parasites are actually the cause of many health problems such as anxiety, depression, chronic pain, fatigue, and unexplained digestive issues. We all need a common sense strategy to improve our health. Moms on a Mission encourages you to reach out to our good friend, Dr. Jason Dean. Dr. Dean's Full Moon Protocol provides all natural detoxification and fights inflammation. And the supplements are made with 100% organic ingredients and are proven to kill parasites safely and effectively. I know after I took Full Moon Protocol, I had more energy. To order your Full Moon Protocol today, go to bravetv.store/mission to save $20 off your first order. That's bravetv.store/mission. According to leading sleep experts and sleephealth.org, over 50 million Americans struggle getting a good night's rest. That's why Moms on a Mission loves MyPillow. MyPillow makes amazing pillows, sheets, mattress toppers, robes, towels, literally almost everything you need for a good night's sleep. They also make dog beds for your dogs. So by going to mypillow.com, typing in the code MISSION, you not only receive a high quality product, but you're supporting Moms on a Mission and this podcast. If you like what you're hearing and you agree with it, you believe in it, and you want to support Moms on a Mission, then go to mypillow.com today and order some high quality products, and just type in the code MISSION at checkout and you can save up to 66% off. That's mypillow.com, code MISSION.
Since 2014, Organic Body Essentials has offered clean, simple, certified organic skincare. Our organic face-to-feet and federally compliant hemp and pet products are manufactured under USDA and FDA guidelines. Our products are inspired by God, using plants He created. In Ezekiel 47:12, it says, "The fruit is for food and the leaves for healing." We believe in the power of God to heal, so we pray over our products and for our customers. Our therapy in a bottle approach has been widely received, and our customers' testimonials continue to inspire us. You can find us at organicbodyessentials.com and obe.organicbodyessentials.com. Please feel welcome to reach out with questions. Use coupon code MISSION at checkout for a discount. Thank you for your support by using Mission at checkout to benefit moms on a mission and their quest to reestablish traditional values in our education system and empowerment for a healthy lifestyle.